At the beginning of the story, a man named Dave suddenly receives a call from a U.S. ambassador named Mike in Afghanistan. Mike informs him that their base has been attacked by terrorists and that many of their men are trapped. He also explains that the spy family Dave had sent, the Walter family, has been attacked as well. Mike insists that the Walter family must be rescued at any cost. Almost everyone in the army knew about the Walter family because Walter had served as a spy in Pakistan and Afghanistan for many years. He had reported countless secret terrorist activities and provided crucial intelligence to U.S. officials in time. The biggest reason for saving them was that Walter's family included a 13-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter. Walter had done so much for the U.S., and they couldn't allow such an innocent family to die like this. Meanwhile, Walter, severely injured, drives his car through the jungle with his family, trying desperately to escape. Dave initially hesitates to accept this mission, fearing it could trigger a major international conflict. However, Mike persuades him by asking how he would feel if his own family were trapped in such a situation. Mike's base is also under heavy attack from the Taliban. He quickly calls for help to rescue the Walter family before his communication cuts off. After that, Mike hurriedly packs his belongings and leaves the base. Dave immediately contacts a senior agent named John, explains the situation, and asks him to conduct a rescue operation for the Walter family. John wastes no time and assigns his best unit, the Warhorse team, to locate and rescue them. Soon, the Warhorse team, fully equipped and ready, heads toward the jungles of Afghanistan. Their only lead is that the Walter family was last seen leaving Afghanistan in a green car, driving toward the Pakistani border. As the Warhorse team's helicopter approaches the jungle, a terrorist hidden on a nearby hill launches a sudden attack using a Bajoka missile. The missile strikes the helicopter, sending it spiraling out of control before crashing to the ground. The crash is so violent that no one survives, except one soldier, Marco, who manages to eject from the chopper just in time. All his other teammates are killed instantly as the helicopter explodes on impact. Marco, the leader of the Warhorse team, was known by his call sign Warhorse One. After the sudden attack, Marco is disoriented and his mind goes blank, but soon, he regains consciousness and stumbles toward the wreckage, hoping to find someone alive. He searches through the debris for a long time, waiting for any response, but sadly no one answers. The loss devastates Marco because in the army, your comrades become your family. Left with no other option, he repairs his damaged communication device and tries to contact headquarters. John receives the message and learns about the attack and the tragic deaths of the entire Warhorse team, except Marco. Marco still asked his team to carefully examine the helicopter wreckage through satellites to find evidence of any survivors. But in reality, no one from Marco's team had survived. This news enraged Marco. While talking to his comrades, he suddenly noticed a cliff where 3 terrorists were passing by. One of them had fired a bazooka at their helicopter. Seeing them, Marco became utterly enraged. He quickly found cover and easily killed 2 of the terrorists, but the third man somehow managed to escape and contacted his remaining comrades, calling them to his side. Then, one of Marco's comrades, Castle, spotted him through a satellite and warned Marco to be careful. Castle informed him that 30 to 40 terrorists were now approaching to kill him. He told Marco to hide until his forces arrived. However, Marco, deeply enraged, refused to obey the orders and prepared for battle. Then Marco's commander John spoke to him. He did not want to lose such a great soldier like Marco and was deeply saddened by the loss of Marco's remaining soldiers. Marco understood this and decided not to attack the terrorists. However, by then, the terrorists had arrived and had already spotted him. They tried to fire at Marco, forcing him to return fire. He killed several terrorists before fleeing. He hid near a cliff and fired at the terrorist whenever he saw fit. Several more terrorists were killed. However, Marco had very few bullets left. With that much ammunition, he could have killed all the terrorists, but killing Rist was simply impossible. To save his life, Marco jumped from the cliff into the flowing river below and began to drift. The terrorists believed that no one could survive such a jump. Therefore, they left, assuming Marco was dead. Driven by revenge, Marco survived the plunge and soon emerged near the forest on the riverbank. He immediately began walking cautiously. Along the way, he spotted a car with several dead people lying nearby. Inside the car was none other than Walter's family. The terrorists had killed Walter's entire family, leaving only Walter and his 6-year-old daughter, Joy, alive. Walter's condition deteriorated significantly, and he was soon to die. Before dying, he asked Marco to save his daughter, Joy. Marco wanted to save Walter as well. However, knowing Walter was beyond rescue, he took Joy with him and began searching for a safe spot in the forest. Joy was so innocent that she believed her parents were sleeping even deeper. Marco, still afraid, did not tell her the truth and decided to go straight to the evacuation point with her. Meanwhile, all the terrorists arrived at Walter's car to confirm that Walter and his family were indeed dead. Their leader, Radam, was also with them at the time. Radam was overjoyed to see Walter dead, but then his companion informed him about Joy's disappearance and that Marco's shoe prints had been found nearby. This led Radam and the other terrorists to believe that Marco was still alive and that Joy was with him. Rhythm immediately ordered everyone to find Joy and Marco as quickly as possible. However, one of his team members was photographing the bodies of the Walter family. As Joy and Marco continued their journey, Joy began to understand the truth about his father's death. According to him, him, the people who killed his family were very bad people. His father had taught him from childhood that those who harass innocent people are criminals. He advised Marco not to act like a bad person and kill them, but simply to catch them. Marco was shocked to hear such innocent words from Joy. However, he explained to Joy that they were truly bad people, and that he might have to kill them to save Joy's life. Joy agreed. As they continued, Marco spotted several landmine traps. He easily disabled them and continued onwards with Joy. He also warned Joy to be careful, as Radam had left his men behind them. Suddenly, Marco noticed a nearby cliff showing two of Radam's men standing and trying to find them. Marco told Joy to stay down, moved silently, and killed both terrorists with ease. Meanwhile, Radam had already sent his men along every path in the jungle to capture Marco and Joy at any cost. But Marco and Joy continued forward with extreme caution. Then, while looking through the scope, Joy recognized one of the terrorists who had killed her parents and brother. Feeling bad for Joy, Marco took care of her and continued moving forward. He had climbed a little above the cliff, so he returned to contact Castle and headquarters to request help as soon as possible. The enemy had almost surrounded them, but Castle told him that they could not send help to Marco's current location. They still had to travel a few kilometers before Castle and his other teammates could assist him. Having no other choice, Marco agreed. However, by nightfall, Joy was extremely tired, so Marco decided to stay with her in a cave. Once inside, he set some landmine traps outside the cave. This way, if Rhythm and his teammates tried to enter, they would either be killed in the explosion or the blast would alert Marco in time. Before going to sleep, Joy asked Marco a lot of questions. She wanted to know why he was there. Marco began to tell her how he and his team had been given the mission to rescue Walter and his family. They had been approaching them comfortably in a chopper, but suddenly a sidewinder hit their chopper, causing it to crash. Marco's life was saved only because he had fortunately jumped out of the chopper in time. Joy then called Marco a fallen angel who had come to his aid. But according to Marco, he was not an angel. Joy then asked Marco to tell him a superhero story. Marco told him the story of his friend Aziz, a Muslim soldier who was the bravest man Marco had ever seen. Aziz had once fought enemies while sitting in a truck. He had blown up the entire town to save Marco's life. However, Aziz had not survived the battle. For Marco, Aziz was his superhero, and he was deeply grateful to him. The next morning, as Marco and Joy left the cave, a terrorist arrived. The moment Marco saw him, he threw a knife at his face and then stabbed him repeatedly, killing him. Joy was slightly frightened, haunted by visions of his family's death. But Marco managed to calm him down and took Joy away before any other terrorist could arrive. He led Joy to a nearby cliff, and shortly after, more terrorists approached the cave. They were terrified at the sight of their comrade's body. One of them tripped over a landmine and died instantly. Meanwhile, while Marco was washing his hands near a river, he noticed Joy trying to throw a knife at him. At first, Marco stopped her, but seeing Joy's determination, he began teaching her how to throw a knife. Joy quickly mastered the art of throwing a fake knife. Marco then gave her a real knife and asked her to throw it. Joy hit the target with perfect accuracy. Marco then continued moving forward with Joy, carrying the knife. Meanwhile, Rhythm's companions were still scattered throughout the forest, constantly trying to find Marco and Joy. But Marco and Joy continued moving forward cautiously. Joy had a dog named Louie, which her mother had given her. She had promised to buy him a real one when she returned to America. Joy deeply missed her mother and was greatly upset by her death. Marco explained that everyone must die one day. Joy calmed down and promised Marco that he would get her out of this place alive, no matter what. Meanwhile, Rhythm and his companions were almost closing in on Marco. Shortly after, Marco watched the terrorists through his binoculars. Joy made a small noise and Rhythm appeared before them, holding a gun. Joy and Marco were unaware that this was Rhythm, the leader of their terrorist group. However, Marco immediately took him at gunpoint. Rhythm pretended to be a normal civilian passing by. He lied, saying he only had the gun because there were so many terrorists in the surrounding area. Although Marco did not want to trust him, he eventually did. To trap them, Radnam suggested taking them to his house so Joy and Marco could have something to eat. Initially, Marco refused, but since Joy had not eaten anything since the previous day, Marco agreed to accompany Radnam to his house. Castle then contacted Marco and informed him of the location where the evacuation team was expected. Castle told Marco to arrive on time, which he agreed to. However, since the team still had some time to arrive, Marco decided to take Joy first and then head toward Radnam's house. Marco had no idea that he was walking into a trap at the House of Trouble, surrounded by numerous terrorists. As soon as the terrorists tried to attack him, Marco immediately took position and began killing them one by one. Watching him do this was Radam, who had just kidnapped Joy. Upon learning that Radam himself was the leader of the terrorist group, Marco became enraged. However, since Radam had told him that his home was nearby, Marco began searching for the village. He quickly found Radam's village and reached its entrance. He killed the village guard, donned his clothes, and went inside.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
holding another terrorist at gunpoint and asking about Joy. Even that man, reluctantly, had to escort Marco to Radam's base. On the way, several of Radam's associates attempted to attack him. However, being in the special forces, Marco was trained at a different level. He easily killed many terrorists. Despite this, the situation was still extremely dangerous. Just as he reached outside the main base, he started fighting with Terra, the finest man of Radam. Terra had the advantage because Marco was tired and beat him badly. He was about to kill Marco, but then Radam arrived and stopped him. Radam took Marco to a room and tortured him brutally, trying to find out the location where his other comrades would arrive. But Marco did not reveal anything. Radam deeply hated Americans because American soldiers had once attacked his village and killed many terrorists. He had killed the terrorists, including Radam's parents. He continued torturing Marco. However, Marco threatened Radam, saying he would not make it out of Afghanistan alive. In the adjacent room, Radam had Joy locked in a cage, keeping an eye on her himself. He looked at Joy with an inappropriate gaze and began to approach her, frightening Joy into crying out loud. This distracted the guard in the other room. Taking the opportunity, Marco snatched a gun from a man and quickly left the room. He killed all the other terrorists on his way and kept a large amount of ammunition, knowing he was in enemy territory and could be attacked from anywhere. He continued killing more terrorists and somehow managed to reach Joy in her room. Joy was overjoyed to see Marco in such a situation. The only word she uttered was "Papa." Hearing this, Marco's heart was filled with a multitude of emotions, and he slowly moved toward Joy. But then, Radam came from behind and stepped on Marco. Despite being wounded, Marco pulled out his pistol and shot Radam in the neck, killing him instantly. This enraged the other terrorists. As Marco tried to escape with Joy, they repeatedly attacked him. However, Marco had already left behind a trail of corpses. His experience meant he knew that the only way to survive in such situations was to fight. He somehow managed to get out of the village with Joy, but upon arriving, he was completely out of bullets. Marco had no choice but to flee. He quickly scooped Joy up into his arms. Despite his injuries, he continued running up the cliff as the evacuation team was expected soon. Joy, desperate to save Marco's life, repeatedly encouraged him. Marco also tried his best to reach the top, but a point came when Marco could no longer run and he collapsed in the middle, exhausted. Joy, understanding his plight, took a knife from Marco and sat down, pointing it at the approaching terrorists. The terrorists were slowly closing in on them. Seeing Marco's condition, the terrorist commander felt certain of victory. He was about to kill Joy. But to save Joy's life, Marco acted quickly, as he had promised her he would never let her die in the jungle. Before the commander could fire, a bullet struck him in the eye, killing him instantly. This was the work of the evacuation team, which had arrived just in time. They rescued Marco and Joy, eliminating all the terrorists one by one. Joy and Marco were safely rescued and sent back to the city. The story then moves forward a few months. Marco had quit his job because he wanted to live a normal life with Joy. He adopted Joy to give her the love of a family, even though he knew he could not give her the same kind of family he had. But he was willing to do anything for Joy. He even brought her a dog, which she named Loey. Joy enjoyed playing with it, and that's where the story ends. So friends, if this story touched your heart, please let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the journey of Marco and Joy, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world and helps us bring more amazing stories like this to you. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.